Hi, welcome to Fertility Talks. I'm Mary Wong, and I'm the founder of Alive Holistic Health Clinic in downtown Toronto. I'm the author of Pathways to Pregnancy, which is actually right here, I just noticed. And I'm a registered traditional Chinese medicine practitioner and acupuncturist. And the reason why we're here is basically I want to help coach you to navigate your journey for fertility with a little more ease, a little bit more hope, and plenty of advice that is based on science and up-to-date information through utilizing my network of fertility practitioners of different types, so lots of experts, and people like Kaitlynn here. I really, really want to honor you for being here because you're currently going through your fertility journey, and I have to say, it takes something, and to be able to share your story as you're going through it.
Sure, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to share it with more people.
Absolutely, and that's why we're here, right? Because we want to help others going through the process, and just knowing that you're really not alone in the process. And certainly, even though when you go to fertility clinics, you see a ton of women and couples, you still end up feeling completely alone.
Absolutely. I always think when I go up the elevator and you hit the floor that you know the fertility clinic's on, and you often think, I know all these people are going to the same place as me.
Exactly.
But you still are looking at the screen in the elevator or at the floor, and it's a bit of a bizarre experience.
It is a bizarre experience for sure, because there's avoidance with each other, and meanwhile you should be comrades and embracing each other and hugging each other, right? But it's not happening yet. No. Maybe we're going to create a new culture.
Maybe. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So we want to share with you about what we posted was fertility and keeping up the appearances in the workplace. And I think this is such an important conversation because guess what? Most of us are working. So navigating the fertility clinic while we're working is a very challenging thing. And I always bring this up when I'm in consultation with our patients here. And I want to thank you, by the way, for trusting us and putting your hands in ours as you're going through
Absolutely. Having Alive and just another trusted source to help navigate this has been really monumental, I would say.
Thank you. So what I want to see is, what I want to hear, and I think everybody is dying to hear, is your story.
Sure. So my husband and I got married about 4 years ago, and we started trying right away to have a family, and didn't have any luck. And after a couple of years, we decided to get referred to a fertility clinic.
Okay, wait, back off. People always want to know age.
Oh, yes. So at that, so we started trying when I was 29.
Okay.
And I was 31 when I started to go to the fertility clinic. So it had been a couple of years. Traditionally, people go after a year. But because I was so young and there was I was moving in work and lots of things were going on, so I thought, no, it'll happen. It just hasn't happened yet. So after 2 years, and I went to my family doctor, and she said, no, you should probably go and see a fertility doctor. I would say I was still in probably denial at that point, thinking, right. Well, no way that something's wrong at this point. I mean, I'm so young, and it's just got to be luck kind of thing. And so at the 2-year point, we went into the fertility clinic, did some tests, and nothing jumped out as an issue at the time. They did say that I had a fairly low AMH, so that might be an indicator, but
anti-malarian hormone, for those that are watching and who hasn't actually gotten to this part, right?
Sure.
So anti-malarian hormone, in fact, I did a post just last week about this with another doctor, and we're basically saying that it doesn't necessarily tell you the quality of your eggs, just so you know. I don't know if you watched that
I did watch it. It was great.
Okay, great.
I learned a lot.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right? So just know going in that AMH does not mean the end of the world.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
So let's go on.
So, so he recommended at that point that I try an IUI, which is an intrauterine insemination.
Yeah.
And so we did 3 of those unsuccessfully. With drugs. I always made a joke because one of the drugs that I took was called Clomid, and I have quite vivid dreams generally. I always remember my dreams, and with the Clomid, some people have even more vivid dreams. And I had to Google it. I said, does Clomid give you vivid dreams? And sure enough, because did I have adventure dreams when I was taking that. It was quite like stark, I would say. So anyway, did that. That was really the only side effect that I had from that.
Luckily, because some women have many other symptoms as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we did 3 of those unsuccessfully, at which point IVF was recommended, and this was last year. And so that was kind of shocking to me, because I thought, oh geez, like here I thought, no way there's something that's an issue, and now we've done 3 IUIs and it's still not working. But they don't really have any answer as to why,
And what was that like for you?
Super frustrating, because I was always raised in a way that, if I work hard and I stay diligent, then I can do whatever I want in life. And I was doing those things, but it wasn't happening. And so it was frustrating. And so we went into an IVF cycle, and everything looked great. A lot of the tests, I think if I recall, I had 20 or so eggs developing. Everything looked really great. I started to do acupuncture right around that time. I hadn't heard of it really as before, and so a family member suggested I do it, and so I started to do that to help with the egg growth.
During the IVF cycle?
Right before the extraction was when I first started.
So meaning you were already in the middle of an IVF cycle?
Yeah, at that point, for sure.
So I'll talk more on this after.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead.
And then, so we went into the IVF. They got 8 eggs on that extraction, and our understanding was that the week following, basically they inseminate the eggs that day, and then they tell you what the progress is as the week goes on as to the growth of the embryos. And so the next morning after the extraction, they called us and basically said, unfortunately none of your eggs fertilized. And I was like, I remember my jaw physically dropping. I thought, well, that wasn't in the plan.
No.
I didn't even know that was a thing. And so what happened was 6 of the eggs turned out to be immature, and 2 of them disintegrated when the sperm was put in. So that was pretty shocking, and difficult to deal with and to accept. And to be honest, it was having the traditional Chinese medicine as some sort of solution, in the sense of something that I could pursue to help with my general balance and health in a time when I didn't really have any other action I could take necessarily, was something that really helped me to refocus myself, because I thought, well, what do I do now? And so starting in January, that was just before Christmas, I refocused on just egg quality and general health. And so saw the naturopath here and got a bunch of vitamin suggestions, started doing Chinese tea and weekly acupuncture, and just really focusing on egg quality and getting things ready for the next round. And then I just started last week with the medication for this second round.
And the medication is currently down-regulating you though, right? Meaning this is so you're not actively taking stimulation drugs until a couple of weeks from now.
Yeah, so right now I'm taking testosterone and estrogen.
Right.
Next week I'll start progesterone. Still don't really fully understand what all of these things do. I just kind of do them.
Right. So we're gonna backtrack a wee bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Just could add the educational piece in there. So right now you're doing what was called the long cycle, and so they're adding things in like the testosterone, and in hopes to help with egg quality, as well as. So that's coming from the Western point of view,
right?
Because there's not much else they can do, because when they start stimulation drugs, all they're doing is like firing them up, so dealing with the numbers that you've got, but not really being able to touch on the quality. And the reason I was interested about the first cycle was Kaitlynn came in at a time when her eggs were already recruited and ready to go.
Yes.
So there was not much impact that we can make in terms of helping the quality of the eggs, right? Because follicular genesis, the development of eggs, are really about 3-4 months. So what we want to do ideally is actually do the work to help the egg when they're in the pre-antral follicle stage, right? And that is still a couple of months.
Sure, yeah.
So what you're doing is the better way for sure now.
Yeah.
And you know what? You came when you came.
Yeah.
And so now even the more current research, for those of you who love to research, there's a study that I can post another time, but it's very new, and I think it's 2018 that it came out, really talking about acupuncture and the impact for egg quality, and more in terms of live births, because guess what? It's not just about getting pregnant, it's about having a healthy baby. And when we do that, we're saying, and in the research it shows, or it signifies that basically the more acupuncture you do, the dosing makes an impact. So if you're only going to do 1 or 2, it may not necessarily help you as much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So on that note, here you are, you're in the middle of a cycle, and you're sharing with the world your story. Like, I'm so touched and moved by that, because when I went through my fertility challenges, and for those of you who have never watched this before, I personally went through fertility challenges, and it was a 6-year journey before we had our child. And so all along, I watch and see my patients, and I see how it's so difficult to navigate work, and I always make recommendations like, you know what, maybe even if you could share with that one person, just have that one colleague that's got your back at work, maybe that would help.
Yeah.
So when did you decide, because you were in this journey for a very long time, when did you decide, okay, you know, maybe it's time to share?
Well, it's interesting because I remember you saying that when I first came here, and I thought, no chance in hell. It wasn't even in the realm of possibility. It was not something that I would ever do. I thought, yeah, that's just not going to be something that I do, because I was, and up until a couple of months ago, really my sole focus was to not let fertility impact my work. And there's a few reasons for that. One, you know, I had seen different times in workplaces when people are going through things and are public about them, let's say a bad divorce or something like that. Oftentimes people will say, oh, you know, they're going through a hard time, and that can sometimes become kind of a crutch that people lean on, that they say, you know, if performance isn't great or some different things are happening, that becomes the thing. Like, oh, don't worry about that. They're going through a tough time. Or, yeah, he doesn't seem quite up to speed these days, you know, oh, he's dealing with something. And it just tends to become kind of this thing.
And what did you make that mean for yourself?
So I didn't want that to be a thing for me. Because for me, I thought, you know, I've been doing this for a while and it doesn't impact work. So I don't want people to use that as an excuse as to how it might, little things here or there suddenly are amplified, essentially. And so that was one of my main kind of concerns, was people using that kind of as a reason or excuse that, and making it seem like it was a bigger impact than it actually was, essentially. Why that mattered to me, I don't know, but it just did. And so that was really the key, was keeping it separate and not letting anything happen during the workday. And it was only really the last little bit that's kind of shifted for me.
And what made it shift? What was it?
Yeah, so I think part of it is, after dealing with this for quite an extended period of time, when I first started, I assumed to myself, well, this won't be long. You know, it's going to be a few months. I'll make it through. I'm going to survive these few months and I'll get through and that'll be fine. And then time went on and things progressed, and it became harder and harder for me to keep it all together, you know, and as time went on and the first IVF failed, and I thought, well, geez, like, this is going to be a longer journey than I thought, you know, and so as that progressed and progressed, I was able to keep it together. And I'm part of a coaching leadership program at work, and I was in a session dealing with an issue at work that I was sharing, and a lot of it is coaching among your peers. And I had brought up an issue, and we were dealing with it, and I was extremely emotional, crying.
Oh, really?
During the session. Oh, yeah. And I thought, afterwards I was super embarrassed, and even though people cry in it all the time apparently.
Yes, yes.
But I was super embarrassed, and I thought, this isn't me. I would never show that kind of emotion at work. I'm very professional, very put together generally, and so I thought, you know, here I think I'm not impacting work, but it's pretty clear to me after this session that I am, because that's not normal for me.
Right.
And what I realized was that I didn't have a lot of room to deal with issues that were beyond the regular scope of the day, because I just didn't have any more room. You know, I was so focused on fertility and these challenges and keeping it all together and seeming like things were together, that any other thing was just like, geez, don't even go there. I can't deal with that right now. Put that aside and put it out. So I started having a conversation with the leader of that group, and I said, you know, I wouldn't mind just chatting a little bit about why I feel the need to keep this separate. And so we opened up that conversation and went through, and this is something I really recommend for people, is really sit down and think about what are the particular things, and really be really specific. What am I particularly worried about? What do I think is going to happen? What is my worst case scenario?
So what was it for you?
And so once I got into it and looking at it, it was really coming just from a general fear that once I started to try to find the specific things, there really weren't that many, to be honest. And I thought, you know what? I don't really have that much to be worried about. I have a pretty supportive boss. My team is really supportive.
Did they know at this point?
They knew nothing at this point.
Okay,
no.
so just in general, they're supportive.
Yes,
okay.
just as like we're a good team. We support each other generally. Right. We have a good kind of family-oriented workplace.
Right.
So
and then I might just want to add that not all people in their workplace has this.
Absolutely.
So, you know, for you, I think it's awesome that you were able to share at work, but maybe for someone else watching, it's actually not so appropriate.
Yep. 100%.
Unfortunately.
100%.
Like, I would love for all workplaces to be supportive, but the reality is it's not. So
yeah,
keep going.
Yeah. So essentially, once I broke it down, really specifically, I realized I really didn't have that many reasons as to why I shouldn't share, and a lot of them were based in fears of looking bad, or a lot of my fears were around looking bad or losing momentum in my career. Oh, they'll know that I'm going to be trying to have a family, and then they might not think about me for this project or that project. Those types of things.
Which is so common
Super
to all
common.
women, right?
Absolutely.
Crazy.
So yeah, and so once I became clear on those, I said to myself, well, is that really something that, like, what's the worst case here, and is that really likely? And for me, as you say, at my work, I didn't feel like it was, because I didn't feel like my boss in particular would be that way. And so I decided to tell my boss and my direct team one-on-one, mainly because I was tired.
Yeah.
And I was losing steam, and I was losing the ability to keep it all together.
Right.
And, you know, simple things like if you're going to the doctor in the morning and you're late, you know, oh, sorry, traffic was bad today, or, oh, I have a quick doctor's appointment this morning, oh, I just happen to have another one tomorrow, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, you can only make up so many excuses, and what I really started to find was that it takes a lot of work, and it's really hard to keep things contained like that.
Yes. Well, it's like you're living a lie.
You are.
And
You 100%
and that
are.
is energetically draining. And here's what I'm going to add here. When life becomes energetically draining, I'm going to ask you, how well is your body going to support and create life? It requires energy to create life. So what we want to do is harness more energy. So free up some of that energy. And so again, you're utilizing your ability to be authentic, using your voice to allow some energy to come back. So has that changed for you?
Oh, night and day. I mean, so I told my boss, I told my team, it just felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulder, and I could just do what I needed to do to get through this process. And and at that point, that's how it felt. You know, it gave me more capacity to survive the process. It's developed since then from that survival point to actually almost going into the thriving area. So I'm not just trying to survive and protect anymore. I feel like by one, slowly, and it's been a process. You know, I started with one
Absolutely.
person at work, that trusted peer, you know, then telling slowly. And when I decided to go and take some time away, I was really clear and straight up with people, all of my peers across the organization, as to why I was leaving. And that really let me kind of, oh, you know what, this isn't just a protection, this is an opportunity that I have to share my story with people and let people know that, you know what, it's okay to talk about it, and I don't need to hide. I don't need to pretend that it's something that it's not. And while I was worried that people might think of me in a certain way, what I found actually was that based on people's responses, it really allowed me to deepen relationships with a lot of people at work in a way that I would never have been able to do before, and I think actually will benefit my work life in the long run.
100%. I love that sharing. Yeah. So say more about then, what was the biggest surprise when you actually opened up and started to share?
I think the biggest surprise was honestly how incredibly supportive people were. One-on-one, really. You know, it's dozens of people who have shared stories with me who are in my direct network. You know, oh, we had to go through that as well, or I did that last year, or I went through a situation where I had a couple of miscarriages and I was at work and it was extremely difficult. You know, good for you for saying, you know, putting that out there and being open with what you're dealing with. More people need to do that. The level of support and compassion that people had, I did not expect. And it was quite inspiring, to be honest, about how many people have similar experiences. Not just know somebody, but they themselves. It was way more prevalent than I had ever thought. And a lot of people that I would never have thought at work even, I'm like, wow, I've been dealing with you for years and I did not know that, you know, and now we have that connection to say, wow, you know what, I know you at a deeper level now.
And that is so wonderful, and that creates a better bond, working bond, and just personally, right? Interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
And what I see with that then too is in your workplace, so I would like to say you're at CAA. It's a large Canadian company, and there's over 1,400 people you say there. And if we look at the stats, 1 in 6 have issues. So what does that mean? That's over 230 people, something like that have issues.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. And so you know, for you watching at home, the takeaway is look around your workplace. How many people are there, and really calculate and know that a lot of people are going through the same experiences.
Yes. And it's really that level of compassion too. And I think for me, I'm a very straightforward kind of professional person that people assume always, like, oh geez, she's got her shit together. You know what I mean? That's my personal brand, if you will, is very professional, very knowledgeable and focused and results oriented, and even among my friend group, I'm very involved in the community. I do a ton of volunteering. I've got lots of activities all the time going on, and I think for people to see someone like me who they would never expect is dealing with something like this, or frankly would have the ability to be vulnerable like that, because I'm not very good with vulnerability. I never have been, and this has been a really good experience for me to work that muscle. And I really truly believe that people seeing that, like, wow, you know, if she's going through that and can talk about it, then I might be able to as well. And that's been something for me that's been really inspiring, that gives me the reason to even talk about it more, because I think, you know what, it takes that one person sometimes in your group or in your work, or, you know, to say something, and it gives other people the permission to do the same. And I think that's really powerful.
Absolutely, and you're providing opportunity for others to open up and sharing their truth.
Absolutely.
And this is all about truth telling, guys, right? Telling your stories and sharing your stories, and that's how we connect, and that's how we make a difference in not just on, I mean, you fully benefit, as you hear from Kaitlynn here, but everyone else also benefits.
Absolutely.
Right? They get you as a human being.
Yeah, and as much as you want to, I mean, myself, as much as I wanted to put on this preface, that I was a certain way and had it together and I'm super awesome and I'm really good at my job, the reality is that compassion around, you know what? Even we all have stuff.
We're all human.
Everybody has stuff, and
yeah.
You're more relatable to people when you open yourself up, and I truly believe that vulnerability, and I said this when I was sharing, it really is your strength, and putting that out there is really scary, and you don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, through my experience, I found that generally it's good.
Yes, and I 100% agree, because really vulnerability is power, and courage. You're very brave for doing it. And when I say you're brave, you are all powerful. So you say, I am a certain persona, this is my brand. And even when you go through fertility challenges, that doesn't make you smaller.
For sure.
By opening up, that makes you even bigger and brighter.
I totally agree.
And,
I didn't feel like that before I did. I was scared to lose something, versus by taking the step, you actually gain so much more than you could ever lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people get the full breadth of you, and they can identify with you more, because rather than just looking up at you or to you, they're not going to connect as well.
Absolutely.
If you're just this figure, right? And just to give you a little tidbit about my own personal challenge, as a practitioner of Chinese medicine, and going through fertility challenges, seeing others with fertility challenges, it was very difficult, and I was very vulnerable. And I thought, gosh, do I share my story? Because my personal thought would be, gosh, my patients will judge me and think, why the hell can't you get pregnant? You should be totally able to do it naturally. And the truth is, I'm a mere human being, guys.
We all are, believe it or not.
Yeah, we're all humans. We all go through adversity. And it's how do we find our resiliency, and part of it is truth telling.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely increased my resiliency by opening myself up a little bit, because I just didn't have any more room before, and I have a lot more room now, a lot.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I wonder though, sometimes, from what it sounds like, it's kind of like it's out of necessity. There's nothing else left.
Yeah.
Like you had to tell the truth.
Yeah.
You were going to burst.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And now look at what happens.
Yeah, I actually am, I've decided to take some time. I would never have ever considered taking time before. It wasn't even something I realized people did. And my friend I was speaking to had said, well, what have you thought about taking some time? Because it's been tough, And I said, no, I mean, I can't take time.
I'm Superwoman. I do everything.
First of all, it's like, I always joke, it's like $100 million, so I can't take time off work. But also, geez, it just, that was so out of the realm of possibility for me. I was like, not a chance I'm going to take time off. It's just not something. And then someone said, well, they have ways that you can do that, like short-term disability. And I thought, oh, geez, I don't even know how that would work. So I started to ask questions and look into it. And at the end of the day, for me, I'll be off. I will not have to worry about a paycheck during that time. It may or may not get covered in the end. I'm okay with that. I'll be able to make arrangements to make sure that financially we'll be okay and be able to pay that back if I need to. That's kind of how it works. For those of you wondering and interested in that, is if that claim gets denied, then by the way, they said probably won't even know until you're back.
Right. Yeah. And you're taking 6 weeks off.
6 weeks. Yeah.
So I've seen people take 6 weeks leave, 3 months leave. Sometimes people take some leaves even while pregnant first trimester, especially if they have had multiple losses. And so you know, there's lots of different ways of doing it. And you know what? For others, it might actually be the opposite. It's kind of like, you know, you like the distraction at work versus being at home.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone is very different. And it also depends on where you are in your journey.
For sure.
You've like, I'm done. Like, I got to have some time for me, right?
Yeah.
So, wow. Amazing. So I have a question for you, because you literally are embarking on the second cycle. Would you be open to being interviewed again
Sure.
later on in this part of the journey? I just think it would be really great for people to, you know, watch you as you go through
See
it.
how it goes.
See
Sure.
how it goes.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I'm in the pre-meds now. August 22nd, I'll start the daily needles. My expected extraction is first week of September. I suspect it'll be probably to the latter end. So yeah, any time I'm happy to share.
That would be great.
Hopefully I'll be very zen because I'll be off and doing yoga, well, for the first little bit, after a while.
Yeah, after you can't.
Yeah, so it's funny, or not really, but when you do the training to do needles when you're going into the IVF process, and my nurse said, you know, so at this point you should probably not do much exercise. And I thought, oh, really? Like even yoga or what, you know? And she said, well, just listen to your body. And I said, okay, that's fine. I'm like, I will definitely be able to do yoga or something. And so sure enough, shortly after, I thought, oh, this is what they mean. Like for me, you're growing a lot of eggs, and you know, you can't necessarily do too much around that time.
And everybody's bodies are different as you respond to the stimulation drugs. So if there's a lot of follicles that are being developed and your ovaries are literally getting heavy, top heavy, so to speak.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it is, right? Because they're enlarged by so much. And so it is difficult to add in exercise at this point. And there's actually a risk of ovarian torsion, which you don't want. So meaning like it'll twist, and it is not good. So you want to avoid that. However, if you don't have many follicles to grow, then, you know, a little bit of yoga, like gentle movements are totally fine. Okay, and so very beginning, like right now, you can totally do it.
Absolutely.
Totally, okay?
Yeah.
And then we'll see when you're actually doing the stimulation drugs.
Yeah.
All right, so this time around, you're taking work off. You're definitely doing the acupuncture. What else are you doing, just so that people know?
So since January, I've been doing traditional Chinese medicine tea, which has been great, and they change it every week or 2 weeks, depending on where I am in my cycle, trying to kind of balance out my general health
and overall health.
And so that's been great, doing the weekly acupuncture, and then the medical side of the process for the IVF. And now that I'll have some time off, I'm just planning on writing and relaxing and doing a bit of yoga for now, and just really focusing on low stress and not worrying about anything other than just relaxing, really.
Relaxing and not hyper-focusing on fertility simultaneously, right?
So I have some gardening to do. I've been writing throughout this process, so doing a little bit more writing, and that for me is very therapeutic, and it's part of my kind of process, so that's been great. And making, you know, still seeing friends here and there, and not doing too much though.
Okay, so that's great. Any one last piece of advice to all the viewers before we sign off?
So I think my key sort of message to those of you who are either thinking about this or going through it, or who have gone through it, is it takes a lot of energy to hold on and hide something. And I've just started to really realize now that I've started to let go of it, how much energy that really does take. And to me, it's really not worth it. So even telling, as Mary said, that one person, there's so many people out there that I've heard of who don't even tell one person.
I know.
And that's okay. If that's your thing and that's what you feel best doing, totally do that. But you know, my advice is to tell that one person and start there. That's what I started with, and here I am doing a Facebook Live.
Not everybody's going to do this, so I'm not saying everybody go out there and tell the world. But sharing your voice, being honest.
It's really, really important, because you do hold on to things in your body. I didn't feel like I was stressed necessarily. I didn't feel like it was weighing down on me. But once I let it go, boy, is it different.
Then you know the difference.
Really, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, when you're used to holding holding a tight rein, it's only when you release, then you go, oh my gosh, I had no idea.
absolutely.
Like I had no idea I was walking around with this.
Absolutely.
Right? So thank you for sharing
No
this. And I'm
problem.
so impressed. And this is a beautiful journey, as much as it is difficult, you know, and it's such a cliche, but the challenges do provide us opportunities to grow.
They do, yeah.
Right.
And by and large, people will support you. You know,
Yeah.
people will support you.
By and large, yes. And then for those of you who are like still in the no way Jose category, and if you're in a place where, you know what, I don't even want to tell anybody, start by giving your voice through your words, the written word, or record through your phone, you know, something just to get it out of your body.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's it, guys. I think we've chatted a long time.
Thanks for listening. I hope this is helpful.
Oh, you're going to make a profound difference. Thank you so much for sharing.
No problem.
Honestly. And I want to thank you all for being here. And if you are struggling with fertility or just embarking on the journey yourself, I have like over 134 posts now that are live. So you can go on to marywong.life under the video section. You'll see it. And if you haven't picked up my book, Pathways to Pregnancy, there's actually 15. Thank you.
I read it from cover to cover very quickly.
There's 15 stories of there. And, you know, the point, again, is about creating more hope and really practical advice that will help you navigate your journey. And so from this, we'll sign off. We'll see you next time. Okay, guys? Take care. Have a good night. See you.